The Los Angeles Lakers won back-to-back championships, the first team to do so in 19 years. How does a team aspire to greatness? Well, with a motivational, positive approach to teamwork. LA coach Pat Riley has shown that by using these techniques, you can be a winner, not only in sports, but in life. Pat's father, Lee Riley, coached baseball and was one of Pat's biggest influences. Pat played high school basketball and went on to play professionally. In 1976, he left the game because of injuries. But he returned to the game as an assistant coach after a year of soul-searching and a stint as an announcer. It was the right decision because Pat Riley became the winningest coach in the NBA. This man, who motivates 7-foot giants, is as good a father as he is a coach. He and his wife, Chris, have this adorable 3-year-old, James. You both come from a relatively large family. Do you want to have a large family yourselves?
Oh, yes. I think children, especially after you've been married as long as we have, it's the most important thing in life, and we sure know it.
How do you feel about the team? Are they close? Are they like family?
We'd like to think so.
How does that manifest itself?
I think we really do not go out to dinner. We don't party with them on a regular basis. We will have team functions. But I think in the spirit of caring about what happens in their lives, their families, their children, there's a tremendous sharing. So you know the anguish of the life of being in such a public arena.
Aside from his family, Pat's life is basketball and competition. He learned the hard lesson of competition at an early age. Your dad, from what I understand, actually used to have your brothers take you to a playground or a part of the neighborhood where he was certain you'd probably get beaten up.
Well,
why did he do that to you?
My father never pushed any of our sons, any of his sons. At least me, he didn't. Maybe by the time I was ready to play, he was a little too older. But Lee and Lenny, who were the early athletes in the family, you know, used to go down to this park and play in Schenectady, New York. And my dad used to make them take me there. One night, I did not come to the dinner table because I was really ashamed. This was about 2 weeks of abuse at Lincoln Park. And he asked them where I was. And finally, my brother Lee said, Dad, you know, why do you make us take him down there? He don't want to be there. Every day he plays and he gets beat up and he runs home crying. He doesn't want us to help him. And he stood up and he said to him, because I want you to teach him not to be afraid. And first lesson for Pat Riley about competition is that there's no fear in competition. And he taught me, and I think his sons, that very early.
What other kinds of things did your father give you?
My dad was a very hard man, and you know, back then probably I didn't appreciate all of the things that he did for me as I do now. I only can now appreciate those things because getting into coaching has allowed me to understand exactly what he was. My dad was about respect and pride and dignity and integrity. And you know, when you got a pat on the back from him, boy, I tell you, you did something good because they didn't come very often. And when I look back on that now, I look at it as a great experience because he made me independent very early. And he was teaching me attitude, and he was teaching me character, and he was teaching me all of these values at that time maybe I rebelled against but became part of me. And that's what I am today.
When was the last time that you saw him?
It's when Chris and I were married, 1970. And like a lot of people who get married at a young age, I was $5,000 in debt. I had a Corvette that was heavily financed, a plastic plant, a king-size bed, and 4 Four Tops records. That's all I had to my name. And I thought my basketball career was over before it even started. And we had spent the whole day discussing that. And that night, after the reception, when we were all feeling pretty good, and we brought him downstairs, and we put him into this 1965 red Chevrolet Caprice, had primer on the fender, and he and Mom were in the back seat, and as they began to pull away, he stuck his head out the window, and then his arm followed out the window, and he was like yelling, said, "Hey, Pat, just remember what I always taught you, that every now and then there comes a place and a time when you've got to plant your feet, stand firm, and make a point." And that was the time in my life that I had to stand firm in my career. I had to break through whatever fear it was that I wasn't going to make it. And those are the little pearls at the appropriate times that he always used to give me. Well, those were the last words that I ever heard him say. Those moments are planted firmly in my mind, and when I talk now about things to the team, I talk about moments, breakthrough moments and opportunities that we have, that we do have to plant our feet, stand firm, and make a point by not being afraid to compete. And so only now, at age 43, do I realize the value of my father's words. And he's still talking.